Well, welcome back, welcome back. You know, sometimes art can be an interesting mystery. Sometimes we wonder, what were the makers thinking behind the art? One of the key examples being the Mona Lisa. There have been many theories about the Mona Lisa. Hell, some people even theorized that the Mona Lisa was actually just Leonardo da Vinci in drag because he was gay. No, I'm not kidding. And the Fate series went wild with that. But anyway, where am I going with this? Well, the mystery behind art is one thing, but how about a case where we know exactly what was going on with the art to speak of?
As I mean, shite art is still art, huh?
Yeah.
I will not apologize for art.
Yes, and, well, Lord knows we got a good dose of art yesterday when we looked at the Island of Doctor Moreau 1996.
I wish I had a dose of alcohol to counterbalance, but sadly I did not have it yesterday, did not have it today.
Consider this, Tio. Consider that the cast and crew had all the alcohol for you in that sense, because we're about to...
Considering we had also copious amounts of unprotected sex, that makes things more depressing for me, but go on.
Yes, today we complete our journey to the Island of Dr. Moreau by looking at what is arguably more famous than the movie itself, the actual developmental process. And we're going back to the very, very beginning, before John Frankenheimer had even so much as sat in the director's seat. No. We're starting the story with the original director, the man who had spent 4 years trying to make an Island of Dr. Moreau movie before New Line finally gave it the green light before backstabbing him. Mm-hmm. This is it. Lost Soul, the doomed journey of Richard Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau. So, start at the Severin logo. Thank you for the Blu-ray of this, Severin. And here we go, in 3, 2, 1, click. You know, guys, the thought occurs to me that the three main leading actors, David Thewlis, Val Kilmer, and Marlon Brando, they've technically all been DC characters from different eras when you get down to it. Brando was Jor-El, Val Kilmer was Batman, and David Thewlis ended up being Ares.
Also, thank you, Severin, for releasing this wide.
This was done in 2014, actually, so it took a while to collect all these informations.
Oh, yes, and they collected a lot of archive footage. Well, present-day interviews and whatnot. You're getting the entire story behind it.
What does that mean?
He was against the grain. He was a much younger horror director of sorts.
I don't remember Sam Raimi having a beard.
Sam Raimi with a beard. Now there's a sight to behold.
Let me see if I saw something from Richard Stanley's.
Yeah, his mother was into witchcraft and anthropology.
And he sounds like a modern-day college student.
I saw he was a writer, not a director for it, but he did saw Imago Mortis. He worked upon. It's a cult classic here in my country.
So he was an up-and-coming horror director who had made stuff like Hardware and stuff here and there.
Dust Devil.
Yes, Dust Devil. I haven't seen those movies, but I've heard that they are very much considered classics of the genre. And yeah, one thing about him, he was a pretty nice director. Pretty good to work with, arguably, which probably helped a lot of his productions.
Oh, so basically this is the story of how Hollywood not just, cut the wings, but also busted the kneecaps of this poor guy.
Yep.
Oh, fantastic. Why people want
Wait, listen to this. Yep, the Island of Doctor Moreau was gonna be his big magnum opus, the one that will push him into superstardom. Well, oh well,
Well, okay. To be honest, he co-wrote the script, and the script sucked anyway. So
No, okay, Dwibs, that's the thing about the script. I don't want to get too ahead of a documentary. Let's just say the actual finished project had little to none of his script in it. But trust me, that's way later down the line when that gets explained. Directed by David Gregory.
Okay. I wonder who was the storyboarder for the original movie. I did not check.
The original storyboards were reportedly made by Richard Stanley.
Okay.
Again, Island of Doctor Moreau was his pet project for 4 years, and we're gonna actually start by him showing a lot of those storyboards too. Also, that's a nice portrait of Vlad Tepes in the background.
Huh, really? Oh, they wanted a breastfeeding scene. Magnificent.
Thankfully, we didn't get that.
Wow.
Yep, he was a very big fan of the original novel. That happens a lot.
does that
Yeah,
approach
the
ever-
little, again, parenting 101. Saying that makes the things more appealing.
Yeah, no, that just increases their curiosity. It'd be like me making. It'd be like if I went to Jova and I said to him, "Jova, I found this book. Do not read it."
Well, that doesn't pique my curiosity
It's like-
at all.
Isn't that like that episode of Ren Stimpy where like one of them has like this button that ends the word and they must not press them?
Well, like that bit in Spy Kids 3 where it's like there's a button called "Do Not Push," and he pressed it anyway because someone tricked him into thinking it was a turbo.
You know, I like to imagine
Or in
that
Paper Mario when reading a diary gets you killed.
I like to imagine that his parents inadvertently causing him to become interested in the story is technically part of the many line of events that would lead to this travesty of a film. And if that's the case, I wonder how his parents
it
must
is
have...
butterfly effect anyway.
I wonder how his parents must have felt. Heart of Darkness. Yes, and we all know there's a movie based off Heart of Darkness now, isn't there?
Yeah,
Apocalypse Now. Remember that for later.
it all comes together.
Yep.
Graham Humphrey.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. He did some concepts for stuff like the Evil Dead movies and Nightmare on Elm Street, so cool stuff.
Huh. Yeah,
I guess this is the guy that came up with the original design for Freddy Krueger.
Fun fact, actually, someone involved in it was actually the great-great-grandfather of Richard Stanley. Again, it all really ties in.
Oh, and Bela Lugosi, the Panther Woman, which is
Yeah.
not credited.
The only thing I've seen of Bela Lugosi are a few scenes from that Ed Wood movie where he goes pull the string,
Mhm.
and the and Martin Landau's portrayal of him in Ed Wood.
Basically, the old 50s take on the Island of Doctor Moreau.
Mm-hmm.
Which Stanley took some issue with how it made Moreau more like a mustache-twirling villain. So from what I've seen, apparently the Island of Doctor Moreau has had not the best luck when it comes to movie adaptations, even back then.
Is this book cursed or something? I better not read it, I might get cursed.
Don't you see, Drips? You'll finally make the version of the movie that is totally paying.
Anyway, the version he was referring to was from 1932 instead.
Oh, God. Even back then.
Yeah, I don't think there was a 50s version because... there was one called Terror is a Man.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the thing, Jover. In order for me to be able to make that film, I'll first have to choose which body part I can live without.
They say you only need one kidney.
I like my kidneys where they are, thank you very much.
So Richard Stanley saw a version of the movie that, well, he didn't like and wanted his money back on. Oh God, the foreboding.
Maybe fate thought he was being too cocky.
That's
1977's version.
London, 1993.
London.
Well, that sucks.
Figures. A lot of times in Hollywood, I know it's not a complete guarantee, but a lot of times in Hollywood, when a director wants to have their own, child project, the passion that they always want to put on screen, 9 times out of 10 turns out to not work, or it's executive mandated to death.
Oh boy. That is one point, though. The idea to sort of bring the Island of Doctor Moreau up to date.
Okay, this kind of concept do remind me more of something that Ralph Bakshi would do. Subtle.
As you know, this stuff never made it into the movie for one reason or another.
The birth scene is still present, but not in this kind of capacity.
So... Jürgen Prochnow. I think I've only ever seen him in the Wing Commander film.
Huh.
Yeah, from this concept you can clearly tell that Dr. Moreau was supposed to have a completely different design. Mm-hmm. Fun fact, in the Simpsons episode, Marge is the one who gets turned into a cat.
She was supposed to become more like a cat, but, well, yeah, Hollywood be Hollywood. That never happened in the actual movie.
Shame. This could have been a good Tigra origin story.
Oh my God, you're right.
She kind of looks like her. these concept arts.
Yeah. Like, to give Richard Stanley credit, he definitely did have a well thought out idea. This is about how that idea was torn to shreds and, well, got replaced with something terrible.
It does remind me of something like The Thief and the Cobbler, just much, much worse.
Oh,
That's
God.
because that's the thing. He didn't even last 1 week on the production. I think it was midway through the first week he bolted, and they got the replacement director.
Oh, they were going to even fuck. Okay.
Oh, boy, yeah. That apparently did make it into the movie.
Was that the part you mentioned where they'd find out how many more nipples she had or something?
Yes.
Well, a scene where a bunch of characters fuck each other.
Well, okay.
Well,
What?
Hold on. Oh my
well,
god!
I guess
The thing that I mentioned yesterday about the elevator was originally supposed to be more subtle.
Yep.
How do you fuck that up?
You'll see, Tio. Trust me. That's what this
No,
documentary is.
what I meant, it was literally just editing out the scene where the guy gets into the elevator.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of amazing how everything that could go wrong went wrong. Even managing to screw over an easily done subtle shot like that.
I was gonna say a scene where a bunch of characters fuck each other. So this is where Stanley Kubrick got the inspiration from for Eyes Wide Shut.
Okay, anyway.
He saw that bit of paper lying about and just said, "I'll do this bit."
Oh, and here's Edward R. Pressman, the producer. Of course they were.
Again, for a refresher, Pressman is still producing movies these days, as I recall.
Uh-huh.
Because back then, New Line Cinema's shtick was moderately priced films.
Yep, Island of Doctor Moreau was one of their big film gambits in the financial department. Again, it really is amazing that that's not what got them bought out by Warner Brothers eventually.
Well, their hubris and their desperation.
Yeah.
I mean, they were owned by Warner. They were owned by Time Warner since around the mid to late 90s.
There it is.
Yep, this movie ended up taking some inspiration from Apocalypse Now, which is kind of fitting because the novel that Apocalypse Now is based off of was accused of plagiarizing from the Island of Doctor Moreau book, so...
Basically, now we're basically gone full circle with Hollywood inbreeding.
Yep.
Oh, man. Land of dreams, everyone.
Hollywood. Oh, boy.
Well, there was certainly inbreeding in this movie, Tio.
Hey.
It was as edgy as its slogan.
That was the point of New Line Cinema at the time, though, and how they started to rise up and make a name for themselves. They were willing to make the very edgy, unsanitized stuff here and there.
Wait, they made Drop Dead Fred?
Well, that's the thing, Joe. That was
Yes.
also part of it, supposedly.
It was their strength and also their weakness, as you can probably tell.
Yeah. I still don't know if New Line still retains the Nightmare on Elm Street rights, because I did remember that after the 2010 remake, the Wes Craven estate had mentioned that they wanted them back or something.
Now, to be fair, as they're mentioning right now, they did help some of the, at the time, unknown directors eventually rise to superstardom. So
that is true.
Yeah, they definitely had a good idea on track here and there. Again, this is a story, though, about very promising things having very, very stupendous failures. So, just remember that running theme.
Because New Line, in terms of like film studios, are like they aren't that old. They were founded in 1967. And Robert Shea, as at the time of this recording, is still alive. He's 82.
And now, here's where things start to fall into motion.
Preston Recon UK, but he's from South Africa.
I guess it's because he was living in London at the time, and some people considered South Africa an unofficial part of the UK. Fear for sugars in your coffee?
Guilty.
Yeah,
You don't have 4 sugars in your coffee?
Why not? It's the only way it tastes decent.
Now, to be fair, Dreams, the ideal would be at least just 1 or 2 at max.
Again, Veruza Balk, finally starting to grow out of the shadow of being Dorothy in Return to Oz. Surely this would be her big break.
Absolutely.
Nowadays she's known mainly for playing gothic girls in media.
He looks the part.
And here we go with Marlon Brando. Yeah, Robert Shea, believe it or not, was not happy with the idea of picking Marlon Brando.
Huh.
Cause
yeah.
and what do you know? He turned out to be right. Oh God, was he right?
Yeah, I've already ranted enough about Brando in the actual film commentary. So.
And here's
considering what we now know.
And as mentioned, yes, they gave the film the green light, only to hand it off to Roman Polanski.
Yeah, because Roman Polanski was a shining fellow.
So, but
As a director, I'm just not sure if it was the best pitch for this in the first place.
That said, Richard wasn't about to take this lying down. Oh no. He turned to witchcraft.
Valid.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's
what
everyone does.
When everything else fails.
Yep, he had a friend called Skip who was a warlock.
Was he by mention called Boots?
No.
So around the time he was going to the meeting with Marlon Brando to work things out, Skip literally cut his arm and then cast a spell to help Richard get his movie back. Yes.
Okay, now I was thinking more along the lines of Wicca, not whatever the fuck he just did.
Buckle up, folks. This is where things really start to get interesting. So he came to Marlon Brando's estate.
You didn't mention this in the movie.
By the way, Marlon Brando did in fact have attack dogs.
Why?
Marlon Brando was kind of a weird guy, Dwibs.
He was a lot worse than weird.
he would literally release the hounds. And so the New Line executive fell asleep thanks to him cranking up the air conditioning
Thanks
enough.
to air conditioner poisoning.
And this allowed Richard Stanley to have
fuck?
a proper meeting. Mind you, Tio, we haven't even gotten to the actual start of filming yet, and already it's this crazy. So, how did he get Marlon Brando to agree to the film? Simple. Marlon Brando was obsessed with the movie Apocalypse Now, and when they mentioned that Moreau had connections to the character Colonel Kurtz, who Brando played in the movie, of course Brando was all too happy to sign on. And yes, the New Line executive was very confused when she woke up. Basically, the result, Brando refused to do the movie without Stanley, which eventually won Stanley back the film.
Hooray. That was much rejoicing.
And all it took was just a little bit of witchcraft.
But yeah, around this time, Marlon Brando was a huge name, but he wasn't a huge box office, so they needed a box office draw.
And yes, because Marlon Brando was on board, Bruce Willis joined on, because he wanted to work with Marlon Brando. And then James Woods came on, because he also wanted to star alongside Marlon Brando. So yeah, you know what? This seems like a promising triple cast here, guys.
It's like a dream coming true.
Yep, they even had a set location and everything. Off in the Cairns. Wow, everything was really set up for a great movie, wasn't it, guys?
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. Are those literal vulture lawyers? That's kind of genius.
Ironic.
That's kind of on the nose, isn't it?
Now you got me imagining Phoenix Wright as a vulture lawyer.
I mean, we do have an Ace Attorney starring birds.
Yes,
Yep.
aviary attorney.
It's also pretty good as a game on its own.
I want to try it at some point.
Mm-hmm.
You look tired, lady.
Yeah, she does.
Oh, here's Marco Hofschneider. He's gonna have a lot to say. Oh, if only he knew.
Maybe did they see Star Trek 5 and the cat lady there and get
Basically.
Possibly.
Gee, I wonder why.
I didn't get cat girls in my movie.
It would wait. They thought it would upset women on the menopause.
It's a coefficient, Shiri. The more the nipples, the more the anger.
What does
Exactly.
what does that have to do with cat ladies?
Just a few problems.
Yeah, just a tad.
It'll easily iron itself out.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure it will. Why does the music sound like a horror movie?
I forgot what was the quote from
Oh
Yuri.
God, bloody hell, yeah.
Jesus, I forgot what was the quote from Yuri, but during DDLC. But dense atmosphere is a common foreshadowing that bad things are about to happen.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I mean, guys, think about it. You've already heard how witchcraft, the little cutting of arms and attack dogs, and causing
That was
the
a
woman
satanic ritual, not witchcraft.
That's the same thing.
It's not.
Good lord. And again, we haven't even gotten to the actual filming process yet.
They're already trying to escape.
Yeah.
No, really.
No, yeah, no shit.
Oh boy. And it began with the divorce of Bruce and Demi Moore.
Yeah.
I love. They knew. They knew what they were doing.
Yeah,
I've-
because Marlon Brando's reputation for being difficult to work with was kind of equal to Val Kilmer's reputation.
Gotta eat what
for being
the
difficult to work
challenge at least, don't you
Yeah.
know?
How ironic is it that he was getting all this love and praise from Batman Forever, and he would never come back to play Batman?
Played a villain in a sport for like 1/3 of a Spider-Man game. I guess that counts.
Oh god, that was a thing. Again, this is the movie that effectively derailed his career because, well, it cemented his, reputation as an asshole. And Red Planet, he, did it again.
I don't even think I checked what Kilmer is doing these days. I'll do it.
Well, I mean,
don't worry.
he's like Ed, he's still recovering from the aftermath of throat cancer.
He did make a biography called Val, and apparently that biography does involve his side of a story in the making of this film. Granted, we're not looking at that today, but we'll see.
Because, yeah, I mean, arsehole or not, no one deserves throat cancer.
Gotta be honest, I kind of wish we kept James Woods as the second in command.
But yes, with that, there went Willis and Woods.
Damn.
So, in would come Rob Morrow to play the lead role. Sure, he would stick around.
I'm so fucking lonely.
Oh,
Be
oh
careful
God!
what you wish for.
If only he had known. Seriously, knowing where this story goes, it's just amazing listening to this. Just whatever you do, don't go native, okay?
Of course.
Speaking of native, nobody could radio for help. I mean, it was just nature, you know, fine.
What would they even have done? Just grab a radio and yell help?
Just keep watching, Dwibs.
To be fair, Marlon Brando did manage to capture a radio frequency at some point of the police, so we could have used that.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's like what I said last time. I can't imagine what his eyes were like. Well, my children, I have an important message to announce. The robber is proceeding west on Queen Street, and fuck.
Stuff like that actually did happen during the making of this movie. Doesn't sound like she has any love lost for this movie.
No.
Yeah.
There's one thing that both Kiwis and Aussies are good for is to be extremely honest about their shitposting behavior.
So to her horror, she got the part. Congrats. Enjoy.
No refunds.
And that's a thing. They kind of had to be contractually held to this because with the way makeup pieces were made, they were fitted specifically for each actor. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny thing. Like I don't know if it's funny, but it's kind of interesting. A film populated by mostly either Americans or Australians, or one guy from South Africa, and at least just one Brit.
So, yeah, Nelson Del Rosso was kind of the big guy of them.
For them.
He was at the time the world's smallest man, and he was excited to be in the film. However, that was because originally he thought he was going to have a much bigger role, no pun intended.
Huh.
One kind of disappointing thing about this documentary, though, from what I heard, David Thewlis was apparently gonna be in it, but couldn't because of legal reasons.
Oh.
Oh. That's I kind of wish I could hear what he was going to say about this.
Yeah.
Probably would have just said,
Help me, get me out.
Was legal reasons just the excuse he gave?
I don't know, it's possible.
Hmm. That's nice. Huh. That looks cool. What an honor. Hmm. I can imagine. Oh. Mm-hmm. Um, Really?
Even the animals had no mercy.
I mean, to be fair, Shiri, it's Australia. I can believe that you cannot. It's kind of like the edgy version of a Pokemon region. You cannot make 5 steps without something wanting to kill you.
I also believe it was probably the size of his face.
Yeah. What?
Holy hell!
Well, that took a turn.
What the fuck?
And then all hell broke loose.
I get the idea that some higher power did not want this movie to be made. Maybe that was. Oh, there's the hyena spotted in Ireland, apparently.
God is not pleased with this movie.
Was that a side effect of that magic ritual that the director made?
There's a consequence for this action.
Possibly, but yes, believe it or not, Stanley's mother's house got struck by lightning. Not once, not twice, but 3 times.
Also,
so yeah,
leave the man's mother alone.
Also,
clearly God didn't want this movie to get made.
Also, the fact that Marlon Brando's was apparently like radiation irradiated. What?
Something with basically the French detonated a nuclear bomb close to his atoll.
You know, if I was of a particular mindset, this documentary would absolutely make me believe in a higher power, because fucking hell.
And believe it or not, guys, it's about to get even crazier. Like, seriously, though, I kid you not, the development of this movie is insane, and we haven't even gotten to the Frankenheimer part of things yet. Because remember, Richard Stanley was still technically the director at this time.
I'd say he was being a dick.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't believe the method acting excuse.
Yep.
I mean, there are some that are legitimately like that, but
there are others who have absolutely abused it, as we know.
Yeah, because it's like anything really. Anything can get abused and twisted and warped to being like that.
Believe it or not, Hofschneider got a lot of his scenes cut down because Val Kilmer was afraid of him upstaging him. Petty.
Well, act better then.
Probably meant that.
Yeah, because that's the. It's like I said before. I hope Val Kilmer's that good an actor.
How? This is a nightmare. I'll take this film down if I have to go with it. And yeah, this was back when Ron Moreau was still supposed to be the main actor. Good lord.
Wow. Jesus.
Oh, don't worry,
We know
guys.
it's insane. Don't worry.
It gets better. And by that I mean it's about to get worse. Nightmarishly worse. Oh god. Good lord!
Oh.
Yep. It's kind of just hilarious at this point.
Honestly, I'm not sure I should be laughing, even though it is hilarious, because it's also simultaneously
Comedy
depressing.
does come from someone suffering, Shiro, so yeah.
This is a lot of people suffering.
Yeah.
Oh, it gets even better. Uh-oh.
Yeah, that was also another thing.
Yep, they were transporting some exotic animals. And they didn't take too kindly to being tossed around by the bad weather.
Well, yeah.
Where was this entity when
Yes! Basically, the puma literally pissed on him while he was trying to save it.
Also, you were saying, Pedro? Sorry, couldn't catch that.
Where was this entity when Freddy Got Fingered was being made?
What do you mean?
God works
Well-
in mysterious ways. Pedro.
If there was indeed an entity trying to prevent this from getting made, where were you when Freddy Got Fingered was being shot?
Shoot, that's a good question. Maybe it used all its power on this movie. So, this is the point where Moreau went, you know what, screw this, and this is where he started to break down and literally send SOSs.
I'd start swimming. Like at this point.
Yeah. He was begging to see his family again. Like I said, like a prisoner of war camp. Jesus Christ.
Honestly, this movie is a war crime.
Kind of. Yeah! Let's see how far this could go at this point. We've already got one cast member breaking down. Let's go for the entire crew.
They really chose to fuck around and find out.
And mind you, unfortunately, Stanley did not have the backing of Brando at this point because Brando was off mourning the death of his daughter.
Yeah.
Which would make stuff tougher on Stanley. In fact, mind you, they didn't even know if Brando was going to come back. For all they knew, the film was going to die right there and then. And part of me wonders if that may have been better if it had just died. And unfortunately, this made Stanley very paranoid as they're going into. Yeah, so Val Kilmer complained to the studio execs that the movie he was trying to sabotage wasn't going so well.
What an ass.
And unfortunately, this went up the chain. "4 a.m., Christ." Imagine being woken up at 4 a.m. for this mess. Unfortunately, this marks the beginning of the end for Stanley. And that's the thing, a lot of people were on his side. It was only when the big brass decided it. Which would eventually lead to Richard Stanley losing his flipping mind. Don't panic, Richard. Yep, Veruza Bulk threatened to cut her own heart out with a sushi knife in favor of him. And now comes the daring attempt to escape the country from the Somme.
1996 Escape from Australia.
That could be the name for a disaster artist-esque making of the Somme.
Who'd play Marlon Brando?
Some people have jokingly said Val Kilmer. That said, I guess we could get Maurice LaMarche to play Marlon Brando.
Is he often an on-screen actor?
If anything, if you want to go for the parody and represent Marlon's nature, maybe Danny DeVito.
Huh. I guess so, but does Danny DeVito, can he do the voice?
Yeah, I think he's capable.
Or do what they did with Orson Welles in the Ed Wood movie and have Maurice LaMarche dub over Vincent D'Onofrio.
So what I'm learning from Buck's confession here was that Rob Morrow was the lucky one who got out when he could. Everyone else? Nope, contractually sealed in.
I get the idea that they gave the exception because they thought he would have been the only one, but they hastily had to pull the clause because they were afraid everyone would have walked out in mass, which is what they wanted to do.
Reportedly, some people actually did walk off on set, never to be seen again. This movie is so cursed.
I mean, yeah.
And yeah, Richard Stanley did in fact go mad.
Kind of does remind me of the creator of the 2012 Coney, movement, which went insane as well in a couple of weeks because of the massive expectations.
The script shredding.
Yep,
or note shredding.
He shredded everything. He shredded everything. Now, okay, to give some credit to New Line Cinema, Richard Stanley had not been doing the best of communicating with them, not always coming to meetings and proper.
They did mention that he was very isolated.
That said, though, firing a man by fax, come on.
Also, I kind of hardly blame the guy, after everything that's been said up to this point.
Yeah, true. Let's not forget the whole Roman Polanski deal. And that's the thing, a lot of the crew, pretty much 99% of the crew, were in Richard Stanley's camp here. He was a nice guy, good director, great to work with, if you weren't Val Kilmer. And, they were all rooting for him.
Oh yeah, because that's the thing, Brandon wasn't there yet, was he?
Nope! Again, all this stuff happened before Brando even came on set. So basically, New Line Cinema were afraid that they may have created a supervillain and that Richard Stanley might want vengeance. I can't imagine why. They thought he was going to blow up the entire studio. I mean, sorry, the set.
Okay, maybe we will mention this later in the documentary, but was there an actual official police investigation of the whole deal? Because a lot of these things do sound a bit illegal.
There was a lot of security personnel, in case you're wondering, and yes, someone actually did get mugged during the making of this film in Sydney.
I mean, considering everything, that's probably the least bad thing that could have happened.
Believe it or not, Theo, the worst is yet to come still. Yeah, finish it up, we'll see what happens. Again, because they'd sunk so much money, and because a lot of the prosthetics were literally fit for each of the actors specifically, they were deadlocked in there. Oh, sure, they were getting paid well, but there comes a point where you have to ask yourself, is this amount of money worth this amount of suffering?
No.
And now comes John Frankenheimer.
So this was just, like a stepping stone for him.
Basically, a lot of directors they went to took one look at this and said, yeah, no thanks.
And I want to reiterate, John was not exactly like the first guy that was passing around. Again, the Manchurian Candidate was just one example. This guy has a lot of good stuff under his resume.
Now, he's one of the old school classes of directors, which is kind of codename for asshole. Surely he would be able to bring this thing under control? Spoilers. Oh, things only got crazier from here. And a deal was made.
Da, 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 da.
Shame he only got to make 2 of those 3 movies. Because unfortunately he apparently passed away after the second one.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, you're going to that remote part of Australia, one of the most dangerous continents in all. Have fun!
Why would you plant a jungle in the jungle? I mean, that'd be like making a set of an alleyway rather than shooting an alleyway.
You know, it's movies like these that are a very good warning of anyone who wants to make it as an actor. Be prepared to deal with some crazy crap. Hell, not just an actor, anything dealing with in a movie. Be prepared for some crazy hijinks. So here's the thing, though. Because Richard Stanley had shredded his notes and, well, vanished off into the jungle, they had to literally restructure everything. They had to make up a new story, they had to make a new script and everything. So basically, it's pretty much all you see in the movie is, well, none of that can really be blamed on Richard Stanley because none of it was used from his original idea. So, let's put things into perspective. This was originally supposed to be a project that would only take 6 weeks to make. It ended up taking nearly 6 months to make.
It wasn't even worth it.
No, it was not. So here's the irony. John Frankenheimer, being, well, an asshole, tended to treat the cast and crew like little better than animals, one could say. And now, finally, it ends with David Thewlis.
More like Freakenheimer.
What a story, Dweebs.
I wonder how Rob Morrow must have felt, having escaped the even crazier things that are yet to come. We'll make it through this. Yeah, like I mentioned, Frankenheimer was an old school class of director. Good at reeling in actors here and there, but also unfortunately good at being, well, a dick.
What a shame.
Was that his philosophy, to fight fire with fire?
Again, it's the unfortunate old school class of directing, Dwibs. Like, not to say all old school directors were like that, but, well, you know. There you go, Dwibs. Literally, none of what you saw in the actual movie is what Richard Stanley planned. Well, okay, it may have had some glimpses of his plans, but overall, this is like essentially the equivalent of you writing a story, then just having a completely different writer come in, piss over it, and then make it over.
Yeah, that's happened quite a few times, actually. Like, a guy's credited on a script, even though almost none of his script was in the film. That's what happened with Gemini Man.
Yeah.
No, to an extent, also that's what happened with The Walking Dead, the past season 1, basically.
Oh.
Frank Darebone, basically entire vision was replaced because ABC were a bunch of assholes. AMC, sorry.
Understatement much.
Wow, even a term for it.
See, I wonder who was that.
There are
That was
pictures of the movie.
Imagine going from one of the nicest directors ever to this monster as your director, and you not being able to escape of it because of goddamn contracts.
Yeah, it does remind me of the post-season 1 Walking Dead, The Walking Dead.
Oh my god. That's one way to show
Subtle.
rebellion. Oh god, this bit.
Didgeridoo. Didgeridoo, sorry.
No! Didgeridoos are sacred! Good lord.
I guess he really
But
was paid well.
the main reason was because he wanted to work with Marlon Brando.
Something nobody wanted or asked for.
That's the thing, Shuri. A lot of people at the time were interested in working on this film because they wanted to act alongside Marlon Brando.
Huh.
Again,
Yeah.
we all know how that turned out.
Wait, there was just saw David Thewlis for like a split second.
Give David Phillips credit. He definitely has done his best to steer clear of the film to the point of not even really being in for this documentary. Oh my god.
Because of legal reasons.
This is where we finally got to meet Marlon Brando. The thing we all joined this movie for.
Oh, so the first time they met was what they used for the movie?
Yes.
Huh.
It's
Yeah.
not super uncommon, Shiri, that some actors actually meet up during the actual scene and not beforehand.
This was all Marlon Brando's idea. Oh god.
Yeah.
That way we can get this picture done. Oh god. He wanted peacock feathers.
Oh, man.
What a diva.
Listen. This movie! The making of it! It's just...
What the fuck?
Wait a minute, was the peacock dead or alive? I need to know.
unclear.
Probably.
But probably did, yeah.
It's horrifying either way, but still.
Uh,
Yeah, Brando thought he should be a scriptwriter at this point, I guess, to
Oh,
save this
no.
movie. Oh, yes. And there,
Johnny the prop guy.
you know, I could have been big in Hollywood. But nope, I chose to be on the movie that I ended up pouring ice down Marlon Brando's bucket head on. Because I wanted to work with Marlon Brando. And this is what I got.
I mean,
Fun fact, actually, the day David Foulis arrived on set, reportedly Marlon Brando said to him, No, go home, David. This is a cursed movie. He wasn't wrong about that, I guess.
Well, I mean, you said earlier you had dealt with him.
I'm sure the president of New Line Cinema was also happy you went against his warnings about adding Marlon Brando to this picture. Oh, here we go. Hey, you wanted to work with him.
or Meteor Heroes drama. That was the sign you were needing.
That was the point where they started saying no to Brando, but you gotta love how even after all these years, he still had to just grasp the bridge of his nose and cringe at Brando's idea for Moreau to be a dolphin all along. Oh yeah, Brando trying to be classy with the German actor. But no, that clearly was not German.
He sounded like a fucking idiot.
Yeah, that's like how someone would first read a foreign language. Like you're struggling with it at first because you know it's foreign.
But
But,
Brando,
you get better, but you get better at it over time if you stick with it. But no, it's like the guys who just gave up.
now
They just did it either out of spite or I don't know what else.
No, Brando's insistence was that, oh, you're not really German. I'm clearly speaking actual German. You just can't get me. Oh boy, here we go with the Nessun Dolorosa part of it. So the difference is that Nelson De La Rosa played into Marlon Brando's bullshit. So of course Marlon Brando ended up liking him better. And then how Snyder lost even more of his screen time to Nelson De La Rosa because Brando was obsessed with him.
That's weird. That's really weird.
It's about to get weirder. Yeah! Nelson De La Rosa was starting to grow a bit of an ego. And a bit of a sex drive, too.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, though. He got punched in the nuts, but if
No,
you're
no.
shown to retaliate against him, you'd end up looking like the arsehole.
Yeah, that's the thing. He was kind of a brute here. Even punched Hofschneider literally in the balls. Good lord! Who did in this movie drive insane? You either went insane with power, you went insane with ego, or you just went insane from the abuse of it all. You know what? I have to give Hofschneider credit for showing a lot of restraint. A lot of other people would have pummeled the guy for punching them in the crotch like that. Yes, the entire wardrobe was Marlon Brando's idea.
Oof.
You can tell it's terrible.
They even had him build a little grand piano for Nelson De La Rosa. Money well spent.
For one scene that doesn't
was
really mean
probably
anything.
The poster.
And yes, that was the inspiration for little mini-me and yeah, that. Boy, did that age badly.
Oh boy.
Now let's talk about Brando and Kilmer's little rivalry, shall we? Well, that was needlessly dark, Mr. Kilmer.
That sounds like a threat.
Yeah.
So was this the point where even Kilmer was losing his goddamn mind? Oh god.
Okay. What?
Jesus Christ. Yep.
You
Yeah.
like arrest somebody for that? Because that's like...
Okay, I love that line right there, where he basically said about Frankenheimer. I think it was him anyway. He said, "If I was to direct a film about the life of Val Kilmer, called The Life of Val Kilmer, I wouldn't have that prick in it."
Ken, you know what? For as much a dick as Frankenheimer was, I'm gonna side with him on his feelings about Val Kilmer there.
Well, I mean, Val did eventually make a film about himself, so yeah. Okay. And what if someone's like taken that quote and put it on the YouTube as a YouTube video all by itself? I will. I want to put that in my favorites.
So yeah, Frankenheimer had not one but two massive egos to try and wrangle.
How did I not hear any stories about Val Kilmer making Kiss Kiss Bang Bang?
I don't know.
Was it because it was like? Was it because there was? It was It was a film with Val Kilmer and Robert Downey Jr. in it, directed by Shane Black. Did they all just cancel each other out?
I wonder. Oh God, here we go. Their trailers were...
Oh, for fuck's sakes!
Oh, by the way, their trailers were air-conditioned. Everyone else had to wait in the hot Australian jungle in full-on makeup!
Wow.
Brilliant.
And these two are just like big children, like, I'm not gonna come out until you do.
Pretty much.
It's like hide and seek. What do you mean by people who shouldn't be having sex?
Yeah. To pass the time, it eventually came to the point of having drug parties, and then orgies. So, take it to Steroid. Tell me if this sounds familiar. People, decked out, dressed as furries, ended up having drug parties and orgies porking into the night and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, which was better, this or Rainforest, I wonder?
This film alone probably would have helped probably would have helped bolster Australia's alcohol economy.
Also, Jova, I wasn't sure which movie you were talking about when you mentioned...
Rainforest is the con event.
It was the one attempt at a furry convention and it didn't went well.
Ah, okay.
So
I'll
basically...
give you a video later, don't worry.
So guys, stop me... Believe it or not, the people began acting like, well, animals.
Getting into character.
Sounds like the end of Animal Farm.
That's the
I don't
thing.
know,
In a sense, they were all becoming the movie, in a sense.
Let me see if I can find the proper quote.
Your mouth was on fire, lady.
I think
Pretty
that...
sure at the point she didn't care.
Is that like tequila they set alight or something? Like, what was that?
So, the general consensus seemed to be that this is insanity, God help me, I'm never getting off this island, and when can I pork next?
I wouldn't be... Like, I'm honestly surprised they didn't resort to this ages ago.
Like, okay,
Right.
just imagine, oh yeah, by the way, they had to hire literal local hippies and whatnot. People who were easy hires. The circus where everyone banged. Just imagine, this is your first movie you come to work on, and it devolves into people literally having orgies, doing
Costume by the looks of it.
Yes, in costume, like, just imagine, anyone who was unfortunate to have this be their first project. Like, either you'd be crazy enough that this would wow you to come back, or you probably do the sensible thing and just run away and never look back.
Yeah. Let me check. Is weed actually legal in Australia? Not till 2019.
So yeah, where was Richard? Well, after he'd gone mad, he went to actually a community of hippies, where he did weed. Which, you know what? To give the guy credit, after everything he'd been through, maybe weed was the answer at that point.
The final phrase from Animal Farm, I think, expresses it better. The creatures outside look from pig to man and from man to pig and from pig to man again, but already it was impossible to say which was which.
So yeah, security was very tight, and Richard Stanley was legally told not to come near the film because they were afraid he would sabotage it. But since the cast and crew were on his side, they had a little plan here. A very interesting idea. Yep. They snuck him back into the film under heavy makeup, and he had a good laugh at the damage they'd done to his movie.
Did anyone notice?
Apparently.
The makeup, well, okay, it was something that a lot of the cast and crew were in on, but the people who would have been against it were none the wiser, until the rap party where he revealed it.
And considering the situation that was being going, I can't believe the higher ups did not notice anything. They were too busy fucking around with Marlon Brando and Val Kilmer.
That's actually the prosthetic he was given as a dog here and there. It was made very well to disguise himself. In fact, he was actually in several shots of the movie, believe it or not. That's
I don't remember recognizing
he
him.
he was one of the dog creatures.
Yeah, but because he again made too confused with the crowd shot, I didn't notice.
That said, mission accomplished.
So technically speaking, he has an uncredited role.
Yes. As for why Ron Perlman was on, it's because Ron Perlman was kind of an expert with, prosthetic acting at the time. Because he'd been in a live-action rendition of Beauty and the Beast around then. Yep, Richard was the only one to not take his mask off, essentially. Granted, nobody was really surprised by that, because at this point, people had more or less become one with their costumes. That's right, some people went so mad that they considered themselves to be the actual animals. It really is amazing.
It is fucked up.
When you stare at the abyss, and it blinks back, sometimes you really do get swallowed up. And a lot of people, they just plunged right in. I'm actually wondering, how many therapists did they make rich after this movie? Because I gotta imagine, at least someone had to go to therapy after this. Like, this is not the kind of thing you just shake off and go, that was weird, back to business. Like, no.
I wonder if some would have demanded that the studio essentially, pay for therapy.
Well earned at this point.
I thought you were gonna say Shuri. I thought you were gonna say. I thought you were gonna say I want my name taken off this, or I want to be credited as Alan Smithy or something.
What?
So, it happened a lot of times, Dweebs. Like with David Lynch's Dune.
Yeah,
voice actors do it a lot.
That's what I meant. Although, okay. One, when voice actors do that, that's typically like a pseudonym because of union/non-union stuff. But the Alan Smithy thing, basically, it's when a director is so unhappy about his film, he just decides, fuck it. I don't want to be. I don't want my name attached to this. So put Alan Smithy on it.
Yeah, believe it or not, they really enjoyed the part where they got to burn the set down. I can't imagine
Yeah,
why.
can't imagine why.
Good lord, this is becoming philosophical. Yep, that was him actually then. There you go, Tio.
Huh.
Yeah, this really is a disaster movie, isn't it?
It is. Again, seriously, somebody make a disaster artist type movie of this. Like, yep.
And that might have just been the problem. He was just too inexperienced at this point.
Who, Richard Stanley?
Yeah.
Again, there were a lot of factors here. Again, it didn't help that he wasn't communicating with them well either. Unfortunately, they were the ones who backstabbed him in the first place, so can you really blame him?
I can also believe all of these actors literally lost faith in the system after this movie. But as I noticed through the main movie, it's surprising that a couple of the careers did not got killed by this, but instead they still pressed forward and did good things.
Let me put it like this. This made Marlon Brando forever a laughing stock for the rest of his life. This derailed Val Kilmer's career. At first it seemed like it was rising. After this movie, while his career still limped along, it was clear his career was dying, which would come to a culmination with stuff like Red Planet. He still may do some stuff nowadays, but ain't exactly full stock. As for everyone else, it's a mixture of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Damn.
That's harsh.
I'm amazed some of these people actually had enough faith to come back for another film role after this.
I wouldn't have blamed any that didn't.
Good advice. Thanks. So in a sense, he became like Moreau, shunning himself off from humanity for a bit. Which again, to be fair, given what happened to him in this movie, kind of a warranted response. So yes, he was actually starting to make a comeback for himself.
Yeah, because that's the thing, though. Contrary to popular belief, bad films aren't uniformly caused by incompetence and laziness. Sometimes, you could put everything into it, and it still turns out shit.
And sometimes God is basically against you, like in this case.
Like,
Jesus.
Seriously, I consider it. Even before the filming started, everything was working against this movie. And not just against the movie itself, people related to the movie. Like, again, Stanley's assistant who got bitten by a spider that caused her flesh to melt. His warlock, Skip, getting a flesh-eating parasite. And his mother's house getting struck by lightning 3 times. Lightning is usually not supposed to strike twice, let alone 3 times in the same place.
So the moral of the story is witchcraft is bullshit.
Don't perform satanic rituals.
Don't. Actually, there's a lot of morals to the story. Don't perform satanic rituals. Be really, really careful about what you do when making a movie.
Don't go crazy to the point where you're having sex with everyone in full animal costume.
Yeah. Don't hire Val Kilmer for anything. Okay. Unless you can somehow rein in his ego.
I wonder if that managed
it's
to happen
like
for Spider-Man Edge of Time.
I wonder.
I'd also the point about Brando. Again, it's never meet your heroes.
Yeah. Basically.
Yeah, it's like Christopher Reeve. It's like Christopher Reeve was talking about making the first Superman movie with Brando. I think the second one to an extent as well. He wasn't too happy with Brando either. Like he was like, oh no, he was just there for the check and everything. He just did his stuff and then left. I mean, he couldn't even pronounce Krypton right. So, I mean, maybe the first time you say it wrong, and the director comes on and says it's Krypton, but no, he kept saying Krypton.
And that's not even getting into his hijinks with Apocalypse Now. Poor Francis Ford Coppola. Actually, that makes me wonder, did he was he acting up during the making of The Godfather as well?
I don't know. I'd have to check real quick. I mean, it did. I mean, The Godfather actually did revitalize his career because by that point, and during the late '60s, his popularity started to wane. Although there was one thing that he did positively help on. Basically, Coppola was on the verge of being fired at one point from the film, but Brando said if Coppola was fired, he'd quit the movie.
Huh.
Also, because that's the thing that it was either going to be Brando or Laurence Olivier playing the role.
Well, that said, though, guys, did I tell you or did I tell you about the making of this movie?
Definitely.
Oh yeah.
Like, you want to go first with your final thoughts, Twibs?
Yeah. Since I'll have to go afterwards. Just like just like quite a few people in the film.
So how do you feel about this documentary, and how do you feel about the movie now knowing all this?
Well, I mean, it does explain a lot. I mean, my perception of the movie hasn't changed at all. Really, it's still a piece. It's still a piece of crap.
Oh, absolutely. But now it really puts into perspective the acting performances David Thewlis, Marlon Brando, Val Kilmer, and pretty much everyone else were giving during it.
Yeah, it was kind of unfortunate that outside of like a very brief clip, Thewlis wasn't involved, because I would have loved to have heard his side of the story other than fuck that movie.
That's the thing. Thewlis's thing seems to be, I don't want anything to do with this movie ever again. Not even the documentary taking the piss out of it. Like, it really makes you wonder, what's Thewlis's story for him to go that dark on it?
I suppose we'll never know. He's probably not wanting to talk about it. I mean, it does. Again, it also does confirm a lot of things I was hearing about from like reading research on the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Kilmer was being an arsehole. Brando was being both, but Brando was being either an arsehole or just being nuts.
Oh yeah, they didn't even mention the part where he literally ate bouts of cabbage just to create farts to annoy Kilmer.
Wow.
The rivalry was petty indeed.
The director shift. Because I mean, to be honest, I can't really tell what bits were. Because I couldn't tell what bits were from Stanley.
What we can come to the conclusion of is that essentially most of this was not Stanley's vision. Like, most of this was just them trying to cobble together the pieces of all they could find that had been left behind after he shredded all of his notes.
I can still see that some bits from the storyboard did survive in the final draft in some capacity.
Some did.
Also, I mean, again, yeah, that bit where the director wanted the Aboriginal Australian to smash his didgeridoo was like, dude.
No.
Didgeridoo.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't have just had him like pick up a random weapon on the floor or something and use that.
Yeah, I get that they were low on options, but John Frankenheimer may not have been the best person to pick for this.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, though. It's like they said, his experience wasn't really in those kinds of movies. It was more, just straight non-sci-fi-esque films.
They brought him in to try and wrangle the two egos, and well, even
it's
he had a hard time with dealing with them.
It was kind of like when they bought it was kind of like when Suburban Commando got a director who was mostly versed in westerns to direct it.
Oh dear.
It didn't go well. I mean, then again, to be fair, he was trying to direct Hulk Hogan, so.
Has Hulk Hogan had any good movie?
Rocky III.
Oh, right, he was in that.
Yeah. And that was probably it. I mean, don't get me wrong. Suburban Commando's unintentionally and occasionally intentionally hilarious, but that's neither here nor there. And I don't think the production of that movie's worthy enough to make a documentary.
No, I mean, not like this movie.
I mean, the most you could get from it is like a 3-minute sketch of Hogan failing to act.
But overall, Dwibs, what do you think of this entire journey to the Island of Doctor Moreau?
Yeah, I mean, it just pretty much confirms what I thought happened, and from what I read happened. It was basically just a giant mess behind the scenes in virtually every area. Like, the actors weren't getting on. The director was either driven nuts or was driving everyone else nuts. In the case of Stanley and then the other guy
Frankenheimer,
respectively. There's also the how, because of how hot the place was they were filming, they didn't really have adequate facilities to keep anyone not named Brando or Kilmer or Foulis cool when they weren't filming.
And keep in mind, despite Foulis supposedly having an air-conditioned trailer, he was traumatized by the film enough to never want to speak about it again. And to be fair, you can tell in some bits of his acting that something was going on. Even if you don't know about the behind-the-scenes of things about the film, you can just tell by watching the film that something does not feel right.
Yeah, and I bet New Line Cinema were glad that 2 years after this they would end up having a semi-decent success story in Blade, and then eventually Lord of the Rings. I mean, granted, you had to go through Dungeons and Dragons in between, but still. And
then somehow, of all the things to kill them, would be the Golden Compass.
Yeah. That's kind of. Yeah, it's kind of like those weird stories that I'd probably write.
It's so anticlimactic.
Yeah, I know. It's like I was watching I was watching one of the Ghibli films early this week with Pedro, and all the time, and the film kept foreshadowing a car constantly going past them and nearly hitting the main protagonist. I was constantly like, wait, is the film going to end with the characters getting run over by a car? That's how I'd write it. I mean, it didn't. It was Whisper of the Heart, and it didn't happen. But I thought that's what they were going for. I mean, that's probably how I'd write it. Okay, as I was thinking about the thing, it's like you it's like going if say Disney went from it's like if the Disney story, but it just ended with the Black Cauldron. It's like like that's it. That's how the legacy of Disney ends. A below average film about cauldrons and badly composited CGI scenes. Yeah. Again, overall, it certainly explains a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, and it seems like everyone was at fault. Even Stanley, with the whole, his communication was flat out zero most of the time. So I guess the moral of the story is, if you're an indie director and you're just jumping into a big film like this, you have to be really, really well prepared, because that's a trend that's been carrying on to this day to mixed results.
I am willing to give Stanley more the benefit of the doubt that he did have a plan in mind. It's just that, well, having seen the documentary, to give Stanley credit, he had a lot of stuff working against him. Like, I can't blame him for being paranoid. And again, let's not forget, Twibs, that the studio literally tried to shortchange him by having Roman Polanski direct instead. I'm sure that aged like just warm wine.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, granted, Stanley's got problems of his own, but I won't go into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, yeah, it does explain a lot, and yeah, I'll always remember the documentary for that line about, if I made a film called The Life of Val Kilmer, I wouldn't cast Val Kilmer in
it. Words to live by.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, Shiroi, why don't you go next?
Sure. I will say this was worth a watch, like, for the context of everything. You don't necessarily need to, but I do think it was worth it, even though the entire thing was basically horrifying. Much more of a horror movie than the actual movie was supposed to be.
Amazing, isn't it? Would you say that this was a better watch than the movie, too?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Although that might be that. Honestly, that's probably just because of like the quality of the products themselves, but also like I like watching documentaries, so like.
Oh yeah.
This kind of works in my favor anyway. So oh god. I will say I feel like I still stand by what I said during the movie commentary. Well, at the end of it, rather. It was... Yeah, this whole thing is really uncomfortable, and I was right in that assessment, if the documentary is anything to go by.
Yep. Like... And it's not just one thing, but it's like you have to pick what's your quote-unquote favorite thing that happened. Like, and some of the craziest stuff happened even before the camera started to roll.
But yeah, they had everything from natural disasters to actors pretty much assaulting each other, since, the cigarette burning is a thing that, because that was deliberate.
Yeah.
So,
on take.
Yeah, so yeah, that was assault. I wouldn't be surprised if some people involved in this, regardless of their role, never worked in the industry ever again.
Sure, some people literally walked off the set and never came back again.
Yeah, some people tried to escape.
Yeah, Perusa literally did try to leave the continent and country to get away
But
from
she had
this
a contract.
Yeah. Like, Jesus. If ever there's a Faustian contract, this may be one of the closest things I've seen to one in real life.
Yeah, this is. I imagine some people did indeed have therapy. Like they wouldn't need to tell us, but I would certainly believe it. That's. Oh boy. Again, this was a really interesting watch, but yeah, it made my view on the actual movie even worse.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for everybody who was forced to stick around, and yeah, this was not. This is not good. Not good at all.
Just imagine how it went at the end, Shiroi. Well, you see, there's no such thing as bad press. This is going to be a slam dunk. Let us shake our hands in confidence and let this movie come out to a much roaring bout of applause here, to which it will make a very fine budget to box office back.
You're not even going to get a golf clap for this one.
And I want to remind that when the movie came out, at its actual release date, the competition was very minimal.
And yet, it still got creamed.
Yeah.
Also, Marlon Brando, was it?
Yes, Marlon.
Marlon, yeah, the douchebag who did whatever the hell he wanted.
Yes.
There was one line in there, and all I have to say, like in this documentary, there was one line in there, and the only thing I have to say about it is disabled people aren't an exhibit, you ass. Fuck off.
No, they aren't. They really aren't.
Douche nozzle in more ways than one, of course, but Dwibs has already gone into that quite a bit, so I won't carry on with that. I think that's it, really. That's what a mess. And honestly, I'm not even surprised that certain actors, like even our male lead, didn't return for this documentary because, oh boy, I wouldn't want to retell this story if I were him.
Like,
at all.
Again, like you said, this feels like a horror story in and of itself. It's like the story of a director trying to take everyone down with him.
Well, again, it was like the actual movie was supposed to be more of a horror movie / thriller, but the documentary beat it. And yeah.
Yep.
That's it.
Okay, Tio, you go.
Sure. I mean, what's fair to say? But
And yep, basically.
I mean, okay, no, I want to get somewhere at the very least. It's still so baffling to see something like this actually happening. This is like the kind of thing that one creates in a copy pasta format just to fuck around with some. Oh, wouldn't it be funny if that actually happened in the industry? That would be so cool. That would be so weird and fucked up.
It's like one of those AI generated scripts you see going around.
Yeah.
Or, no, you know what this feels like? This feels like one of those romanticized kind of like fan fiction reconstruction the internet historian and his team will do.
Pretty much, yeah. Oh my god, I'm actually surprised Internet Historian hasn't done one.
To be fair, he still wants, aside from some occasions, he wants to cover most of the stuff that was tied also to the internet. This was done before it became that spread out.
And I guess to be fair, there's already this fantastic documentary about it anyway.
This is quite something. Again, it's a miracle that the movie managed to be finished in the first place. And again, why wasn't there any official proper investigation? Someone needed to be arrested at some point, but nobody did anything on that front.
I wonder if it was just a case of they were afraid that a police investigation would make the shoot go even longer, so they're like, okay, we'll just work for this, get us off this island, we never have to see each other ever again, leave me alone.
This feels, I actually, if you know what this feels like one of Channel Awesome movies, the trouble production behind, cranked up to 11. Because the ingredients are like all there.
It's like I said, the production of this movie makes the Room's production look professional by comparison. And that actually does have a movie about how horrendous the making of it was.
Like, the real shame to me in all of this is discovering that John Frankenheimer was such a bad person, dealing with the actors. Because again, I really like some of the movies that he did in the past, particularly the Manchurian Candidate. That it's a classic for a very good reason. But
It's like you said, Tio, never meet your heroes.
well, it's not even a case of meeting. Since it's just knowing the truth, which is more apparent in Hollywood than ever. It's just a matter of when things are dropped at this point. But everyone else involved, Val Kilmer, Marlon Brando, all the others. The only only real bit that I can give to the original director Richard Stanley was the lack of communication. And but to be fair, it was also sabotaged by Val Kilmer, which, as I think Bruce reminded us, both Marlon and Val Kilmer get stopped billing, both in the poster and the movie. But what's supposed to be the real protagonist, which ultimately ended up David Hewlett, did not.
It's because Marlon Brando and Val Kilmer were supposed to be the big stars that would ensure this would be a financial hit.
Absolutely. Still, it's a shame that you can see Richard Stanley's passion and idea behind it. He really wanted this thing to be made. Okay, I think I can come up with a good example, though it's a bit rougher on the edges. But I think it can fit, because by the time we're making this public audience, we're basically finishing up the Anne of Green Gables anime, and you can tell that one too was kind of a passion project of the respective maker Takahata.
I guess these two in a way are the sides of the same coin. Oh, go on.
I'm getting somewhere. Imagine if right before everything was made to be done by the Masterpiece Theater, Takata was booted out of the project for some reason, and he was replaced by, I don't know. Imagine Miyazaki's son at that point.
Oh, God.
Miyazaki.
Oh, boy.
Obviously, it's still a different scales, because, again, as far as I know, he's just a bad, filmmaker, and not an actual bad human being. Like some.
No, as far as anyone is aware, it's Goro Miyazaki is perfectly fine person.
Unlike most of the key people involved with the creation of this thing. Again, it's so fascinating to see just the outlandish things that happen, the normal and the supernatural. This really does deserve a movie to be done.
Yeah.
Retelling this, making out this disaster artist equivalent.
I think the fascinating thing is just how it shows everything that can go wrong in the movie making process.
To be fair, if considering this documentary took around 18 years to be done.
Nearly 2 decades.
I think we can wait enough for the actual movie to potentially happen.
Yeah.
Who knows? Here's hey, Oliver, you're starving for ideas and you want to milk nostalgia. Here's your compromise.
Especially how there's more YouTubers even covering this movie now. Look, that's
another thing for the audience. I was posing this question yesterday with Deji, not knowing where Jova got it. Apparently, it's from both Cynical Reviews and Double Toasted. They did videos about it just around the same time Jova started talking about it. But anyway, no, this movie is a mess, obviously. The movie itself. The documentary is very extensive. I honestly wish not more cases like this happen, but I wish more movies got documentaries of the making of like this, because they're always entertaining to me and informative about what's going on behind the scenes. Even for the cases where everything turned out to be fine,
Yeah.
But just to know, to peek into what's the ambient of Hollywood, because again, a couple of movies also have been made to tell this, but everyone mistakes Hollywood for this land of dreams where your possibilities can come true, and it might be true, but the stars really have to align, because as soon as you peek the curtain, you will find out an ambient that's very hostile towards you, and only and that's when people are not trying to, let's just say, be very creepy towards you. So It's interesting to see that something eventually came out of this. But yeah, this was still a good time. Not darkly worthy. The movie obviously was more, but it still was baffling to hear all of this.
Pedro.
I'm not entirely sure what I was just told was what actually happened.
And believe it or not, this is all a non-fiction story. Amazing as that is.
Let's just say, okay. The point is, this is the entire process was just absolutely god awful, and everybody's terrible for all of this crap. To be perfectly honest with you, at this point, I just want to move on, and I just don't want to even get myself more angrier about this. I'm just like, okay. The point is, yeah, everybody who was a shithead, fuck you. Everybody who tried to salvage themselves, well, I my condolences.
They tried.
And yeah, I'm whatever. Like, the point is, yeah, it's an interesting story, and I commend the people who made this documentary for exposing all this crap. But damn, like, this is such a horrible situation. Everything about this movie is just, it can only really serve. It's not gonna stop me from having maybe a drunk night watching this with my friends, but
The movie or the documentary?
the movie itself. The documentary is just mostly just informative and kind of depressing because of how horrible things were. The point is, yeah, this entire situation was incredibly regrettable, to say the least, and I just want to. I just want to forget about it, so I can just not forget about it. I just want to move on because I
movie
really
night,
don't.
yeah.
I'm really at a point. After 90 minutes of nothing but baffling revelations. Forgot this thing. I am just so completely, God. Like, I'm glad at the very least nobody died from any of this.
Amazingly so.
Okay, that's it. I genuinely don't have that much to say because I think this documentary really speaks for itself, to be honest with you. So, yeah. That's it, really. I don't... Go ahead, Jova. I just want to clear my head at this point.
This documentary really does make me want to see a disaster artist movie of this thing. Like, I mean, that's the thing. I consider this a 3-hour experience of looking at the movie than the documentary. The movie itself is bad and insane, but the actual making of it is something that transcends what you can believe is true. It's like Lady Layton says, the truth is truly stranger than fiction.
Clearly.
Like witchcraft, warlocks, lightning striking 3 times, a hyena in Ireland, those were all foreboding bits. But the actual process is just unbelievably monstrous, and it drove people to, well, for lack of a better term, return to monkey, unfortunately. Just, wow. It's incredible and horrifying. Like, no, the story needs to be told and spread out for people here and there. And you know what? I would not be surprised if the movie about the making of this movie would be more of a critical and commercial success than the movie it is based off of. Holy cow. Yeah, there's not really much to say that everyone else hasn't already said. It's just... It was unbelievable, but it truly is a warning of what can go wrong in Hollywood. And you know what? If you're ever feeling bad about not making it into Hollywood, well, you can look at stuff like this and figure, you know what? At least you weren't subjected to this crap. So that concludes the Island of Doctor Moreau, and I'm sure that is the last project we'll ever commentate on that has such a troubled development history.
I mean, to this extent, probably.
Yeah.
I haven't seen, gotta be honest, I haven't seen anything of this kind of magnitude.
You know what? Fair enough. So here's to newer horizons. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.